A cold, gray morning descended upon the bustling streets of New York City. The financial district stirred to life with hurried footsteps and the rhythmic clack of heels against the pavement. Among the crowd, a tall, striking figure stood out, Elon Musk, dressed impeccably in a tailored designer suit and a cashmere coat to shield himself from the biting wind. Elon walked with purpose toward the towering headquarters of Tesla, where he was the CEO. His mind was laser-focused on the critical investor meeting scheduled for that morning. He silently rehearsed figures and projections, preparing to pitch his vision for the next technological leap forward. But something unusual caught his eye, pulling him out of his thoughts. Near the corner of the street, pressed against the wall of a building, was a young woman. Her clothes were tattered and dirty, her hair tangled and partially concealing her face. She shivered, hugging herself in a futile attempt to stay warm. The sight of her stood in stark contrast to the polished surroundings of Wall Street. Something about her trembling figure struck a deep chord within Elon. Without hesitation, he approached her. "Excuse me, miss," he said softly, his voice laced with concern. "Are you all right?" The young woman lifted her gaze, revealing piercing green eyes that seemed out of place on her weary, grime-covered face. For a moment, Elon felt his breath catch, captivated by the intensity of her stare. "I'm fine," she murmured, her voice refined and articulate despite her obvious plight. "But thank you for asking." Elon hesitated briefly but then followed an impulse. He removed his cashmere coat and handed it to her. "Please, take this," he insisted. "It's far too cold to be without a coat." The woman looked at him in astonishment, her eyes betraying her longing for the warmth of the coat. "I can't accept this," she said, though the yearning in her gaze was evident. "I insist," Elon repeated with a kind smile. "I have another one back at the office. You need it more than I do right now." After a moment of hesitation, the young woman reached out with trembling hands and accepted the coat. "Thank you," she whispered, wrapping herself in the luxurious fabric, her voice barely audible. As Elon stepped away, he couldn't resist glancing back one last time. To his surprise, she was staring after him with an expression he couldn't quite describe. Their eyes met briefly, and Elon felt an inexplicable connection, as though something significant had just happened, though he couldn't yet understand why. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, Elon entered Tesla's headquarters, unaware that this fleeting interaction would alter the trajectory of his life forever. Meanwhile, the young woman, whose name was Anna West, clutched the coat tightly as she watched Elon disappear into the crowd. The softness of the cashmere and the faint scent of expensive cologne brought her a comfort she hadn't felt in weeks. She wasn't who she appeared to be. Beneath the facade of poverty and desperation lay the truth: Anna was one of America's wealthiest heiresses. She'd embarked on a social experiment, choosing to live on the streets to gain first-hand insight into the struggles of the less fortunate. What began as a one-week project had stretched into a month, during which Anna discovered a harsh but authentic world filled with hardship, resilience, and humanity she'd never experienced in her life of privilege. But Elon's act of kindness had shaken her to her core. In the month she'd spent on the streets, no one had treated her with such respect and generosity. His warm eyes and genuine smile were etched into her memory. As she stood there, wrapped in his coat, Anna made a decision. She would find a way to repay his kindness, and perhaps uncover whether the bond she'd felt in that brief moment was something more than just a fleeting connection between strangers. Back in his corner office at Tesla, Elon tried to focus on the documents in front of him, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the woman with the green eyes. He found himself wondering if she was safe, if she was warm, and what her story was. Why couldn't he stop thinking about her? Later that evening, as he sipped a glass of whiskey on the balcony of his Los Angeles penthouse, the city lights stretching endlessly before him, Elon couldn't shake the nagging feeling that their meeting had been significant. He tried to convince himself it was a fleeting moment of humanity, a random act of kindness, but deep down, he knew it was more than that. The next morning, Anna woke early in the modest motel where she'd been staying for the past few days. It was time for her to return to her real life, but before she did, she had a mission. She had to find Elon Musk. She dressed in clean clothes she'd kept tucked away in her backpack, transforming once again into the elegant Anna West the world knew. With Elon's coat carefully folded in her arms, she headed back to the financial district, determined to return it to him and express her gratitude in person. At Tesla's headquarters, Elon was distracted as he prepared for another day of meetings. His thoughts were still clouded by the memory of the young woman. Just as he exited the building, he nearly collided with someone standing at the entrance. "Excuse me," he muttered, looking up, and froze. There she was. The same woman from the day before, but now transformed. Gone were the tattered clothes and messy hair. She stood before him in a sleek designer dress, her hair cascading in soft waves over her shoulders. "It's you," Elon said, his voice filled with surprise. Anna smiled nervously, her green eyes sparkling. "Yes, it's me. I came to return this," she said, holding out his coat. Elon took the coat, unable to tear his gaze away from her. I don't understand," he said finally. "It's a long story," Anna admitted. "Maybe we could grab a coffee, and I'll explain everything." Elon glanced at his watch. He had an important meeting in 30 minutes. But in that moment, nothing seemed more important than learning the truth about this mysterious woman. "Sure," he said, smiling. "I know just the place." As they walked to a nearby cafe, Elon found himself glancing at her out of the corner of his eye. Who was she, really? And why did he feel as though his life was on the brink of an unexpected turn? Sitting across from each other at a secluded table, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, Elon finally broke the silence. "So, who are you?" Anna took a deep breath. It was time to tell him the truth. Anna hesitated for a moment, her fingers tightly gripping the coffee cup in front of her. Finally, she looked up and said, "My name is Anna West." She watched Elon's face closely for a reaction, but he simply nodded, as if encouraging her to continue. "I'm not who you think I am. A month ago, I started a personal experiment. I wanted to understand what it's like to live as someone less fortunate, to see the world from a perspective so far removed from my own." Elon raised an eyebrow but stayed silent, listening intently. "I'm not homeless," Anna admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "In fact, my family is one of the wealthiest in the country. The West's own West Tech Industries." Elon's eyes widened slightly at the mention of the name. The West family was practically royalty in the world of American business, known for their influence in technology and manufacturing. "Why?" he asked, the curiosity in his voice undeniable. Anna smiled faintly, a mixture of regret and determination flashing in her eyes. "Because I've lived my whole life in a bubble. Growing up in a world of privilege, I never understood the struggles of ordinary people. I wanted to see what it's like to live without the safety net of wealth and power. To understand the reality of those who don't have the advantages I've always taken for granted." Elon leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of admiration and disbelief. "That's bold," he said finally. "And dangerous. You could have gotten hurt, or worse." "I know," Anna admitted, her voice soft but resolute. "But it changed me. I've learned more in the past month than I have in my entire life." And then, she hesitated, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Then you came along. You were the first person to treat me with kindness and respect, without expecting anything in return. It shook me." Elon studied her for a moment, his sharp mind racing to process everything she'd just told him. "So, what now?" he asked. Anna smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. "Now, I go back to my old life. But I didn't want to leave without thanking you, and returning your coat." Elon chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You didn't have to go through all this trouble to return a coat." "It's not just about the coat," Anna said, her tone serious. "It's about what it represents. Your gesture reminded me of something I'd forgotten, how much good a small act of kindness can do. You gave me more than warmth that day. You gave me hope." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Elon finally broke the stillness with a small, thoughtful smile. "Well, if nothing else, I'm glad I could help." Anna looked at him, her green eyes sparkling with a mixture of gratitude and something else, something deeper. "You did more than you know," she said softly. Before they could say more, Elon's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting to one of mild irritation. "I'm sorry," he said, standing up. "There's an issue at the office I need to take care of." Anna nodded, masking her disappointment. "Of course. I understand." But as Elon hesitated, looking down at her, he couldn't shake the feeling that their conversation was far from over. "Anna," he said, his voice filled with a quiet urgency, "I want to keep talking. Can we meet again? Maybe dinner tonight?" Anna's face lit up with a smile. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, and as Elon walked away, he glanced back one last time. She was still sitting at the table, watching him go, her expression unreadable. Something about her, her poise, her vulnerability, her determination, stirred something deep inside him. That evening, Elon found himself nervously waiting at an exclusive rooftop restaurant in Manhattan. He'd reserved a private table with a view of the city, hoping to make an impression, but as the minutes ticked by, he began to wonder if he'd gone overboard. When Anna arrived, however, all his doubts disappeared. She stepped onto the terrace in a sleek black dress that accentuated her graceful figure, her green eyes shining with anticipation. Elon stood, his breath catching in his throat. "You look incredible," he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "Thank you," Anna replied, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "You're not so bad yourself." They sat down, and as the city lights twinkled around them, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about everything, their work, their passions, their dreams. Elon shared stories of his early struggles building Tesla and SpaceX, the obstacles he'd faced breaking into the automotive and aerospace industries. Anna opened up about her fears for the future of West Tech, her desire to use her family's wealth and influence to make a real difference in the world. As the night wore on, the connection between them deepened. It wasn't just chemistry, it was a sense of understanding, a feeling that their lives had crossed paths for a reason. "You know," Anna said as they shared a decadent chocolate dessert, "I never expected my little experiment to lead me to someone like you." Elon smiled, reaching across the table to take her hand. "And I never thought a simple act of kindness would lead me to you." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away. But just as the moment was about to culminate in a kiss, Anna's phone buzzed insistently. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting to one of concern. "I'm sorry," she said, standing up. "It's my father. I need to take this." Elon nodded, watching her retreat to a quiet corner of the terrace. As he waited, a nagging sense of unease crept over him. When Anna returned, her face was pale, her movements tense. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "There's a family emergency. I have to go." "Is everything all right?" Elon asked, standing up with concern. "I don't know," Anna admitted. "But I need to get home right away." "Let me take you," Elon offered, his tone leaving no room for argument. Anna hesitated but eventually nodded. "Thank you." The drive to the West family estate was quiet, the tension between them palpable. When they arrived, Anna turned to Elon, her expression a mixture of gratitude and regret. "Thank you for everything, Elon. Tonight was special." "It's not over," Elon said, taking her hand. "We'll see each other again. I promise." Anna smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I hope so." As she disappeared inside the grand estate, Elon sat in his car, staring up at the mansion. He couldn't shake the feeling that their story was only beginning, but he also couldn't ignore the growing sense of foreboding in his chest. Inside the house, Anna found her parents waiting in the study, their faces grave. "What's going on?" she asked, her heart pounding. Her father, Richard West, sighed heavily. "Anna, there's no easy way to say this. Westtech is in trouble, serious trouble. Anna froze, staring at her father in disbelief. What do you mean, trouble? How is that even possible? We've had regular audits, and everything's always been fine. Richard West, looking far older than his years, rubbed his temples and leaned back in his chair. It wasn't caught during the audits. One of our main partners has been siphoning funds for years, hiding the losses through complex transactions. The damage is catastrophic. If we don't act immediately, Westtech will go bankrupt. Anna's knees weakened as the weight of his words hit her. Bankrupt, she whispered. How could this happen? How did no one see this? Her mother, Elizabeth West, stepped forward and placed a comforting hand on her daughter's shoulder. We're still figuring out the details, but the numbers are undeniable. We've lost hundreds of millions. Thousands of employees could lose their jobs if we don't find a solution. Anna's mind raced, trying to process the enormity of the situation. There has to be something we can do. Can't we sell some assets? Reorganize the company? What about seeking new investors? Richard shook his head grimly. We've already considered all of that. The losses are too great, and the timeline is too short. No one will invest in a sinking ship. Anna took a deep breath, her voice trembling but determined. Then what's the solution? There has to be one. Her father hesitated, glancing at Elizabeth, who gave him a small nod. Finally, he said, there's one option. The Musk Corporation has expressed interest in merging with Westtech. With their resources, we could recover from this crisis. Anna frowned, her confusion evident. Musk Corporation? As in Elon Musk? Yes, Richard confirmed. But there's more. They're not just proposing a business partnership. They've made it clear that they want something in return, something personal. Anna's stomach dropped. What do you mean, personal? Richard's expression darkened. They want you to marry Elon's brother, Elon Musk. It's part of the deal. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Anna stared at her father, her mind reeling. You can't be serious, she finally said, her voice shaking with anger. You're asking me to marry someone I've never met to save the company? It's not what we want for you, Anna, Elizabeth said softly, her eyes filled with sorrow. But we have no choice. If we don't accept their terms, thousands of people will lose their livelihoods. Families will suffer. It's not just about us, it's about everyone who depends on Westtech. Anna stood abruptly, pacing the room in frustration. This is insane. I can't believe you'd even consider something like this. We're not living in the 1800s. You can't force me into a marriage for the sake of business. No one is forcing you, Richard said quietly. The decision is yours. But understand this, without the merger, Westtech won't survive. And neither will the thousands of people who rely on us. Anna stopped pacing, her thoughts racing. Could she really sacrifice her freedom, her future, for the sake of the company? For the people who worked tirelessly to make Westtech what it was? The weight of the decision bore down on her like a crushing tide. Who is this Elon Musk? She finally asked, her voice laced with skepticism. Richard hesitated. He's Elon's younger brother. He's brilliant, ambitious, but also known for being a bit ruthless. He's not like Elon. Anna's heart sank further. Wonderful, she muttered sarcastically. Elizabeth stepped forward, taking her daughter's hands in hers. Anna, we're not asking you to make this decision tonight. Take some time to think about it. But please, understand what's at stake. Anna nodded numbly, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. I need some air, she said, turning and walking out of the room before either of her parents could stop her. Out on the mansion's grand balcony, Anna leaned against the railing, staring out at the sprawling estate. The cool night breeze did little to calm the storm inside her. Her thoughts drifted to Elon. He had been so kind, so genuine, so unlike the corporate sharks she'd grown up around. And now, His family was at the center of this impossible situation. She couldn't help but wonder, had he known about this arrangement? Was he complicit in this deal? Before she could spiral any further, her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket and saw Elon's name flashing on the screen. Her heart skipped a beat as she answered. Anna, Elon's voice came through, warm and steady, yet tinged with concern. I just wanted to check on you. Are you all right? Anna hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. I'm fine, she said, though her voice betrayed her turmoil. Are you sure? Elon pressed gently. You seemed upset when you left earlier. Anna closed her eyes, the sound of his voice briefly grounding her. It's complicated, she said finally. There's a lot going on with my family right now. Elon's tone softened. If there's anything I can do to help, just say the word. Anna let out a bitter laugh. Funny you should say that. It seems your family is already involved. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What do you mean? Elon asked, his voice cautious. Anna took a deep breath. Your family has proposed a merger with Westtech to save us from bankruptcy. But there's a catch, they want me to marry your brother. The line went silent. For a moment, Anna thought the call had dropped, but then Elon's voice came through, low and serious. I didn't know about this. Didn't you? Anna asked, her voice tinged with doubt. I swear, Elon said firmly. I had no idea. Damien runs his own division of the company. He's the one who must have made that proposal. Anna leaned her head against the balcony railing, exhaustion washing over her. I don't know what to do, Elon. They're putting all this pressure on me, and I feel like I'm being pulled in 100 different directions. Anna, Elon said, his voice steady but urgent. Listen to me. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I'll talk to Damien. I'll figure this out. Just, don't make any decisions yet. Can you promise me that? Anna hesitated, the sincerity in his voice cutting through her doubt. I promise, she said softly. Good, Elon said, a note of relief in his tone. We'll figure this out together. As the call ended, Anna felt a glimmer of hope for the first time that night. But as she looked out at the dark horizon, she couldn't shake the feeling that the challenges ahead would test her in ways she hadn't yet imagined. The following morning, the tension in Anna's household was palpable. She had barely slept, her mind replaying the conversation with her parents and Elon over and over. She had no idea how she would navigate this impossible situation, but she knew one thing for certain, she needed answers. Elon, true to his word, called her early. I've spoken to Damien, he said without preamble. We need to meet. There's more to this than I realized. Anna's heart sank. What do you mean? It's complicated, Elon said, echoing her own words from the night before. But I don't think this is entirely Damien's doing. Meet me at the Tesla headquarters in an hour. We need to talk face to face. She agreed, and as she sat in the back of her car driving toward the Tesla offices, her stomach churned with anxiety. What else could there possibly be? Had Damien orchestrated this deal alone? Or was there something even bigger happening? When she arrived, Elon was waiting for her in the sleek, modern lobby. His expression was serious, but his warm smile when he saw her brought her a moment of comfort. Come with me, he said, leading her to a private conference room. As soon as the door closed behind them, Elon turned to her. I need you to hear me out before you react, okay? Anna nodded warily. Elon sighed and began pacing. Damien did propose this deal. But he wasn't acting alone. He's been under pressure from some of our board members to secure a partnership with Westtech for months. They see it as a strategic move to consolidate our influence in the tech and manufacturing sectors. Damien thought offering the marriage proposal would sweeten the deal and make it impossible for your family to refuse. Anna's jaw tightened. So this is just a business transaction to him? A way to tie our companies together, like we're property? Elon stopped pacing, his eyes locking onto hers. It's not right, Anna. I don't agree with it, and I told Damien that. But he's stubborn. He won't back down easily. Anna folded her arms, her anger simmering beneath the surface. Why do I feel like there's more to this? Elon hesitated, then nodded. There is. Damien and I have always had a complicated relationship. He's brilliant, but he's also ruthless. He sees people as assets, not individuals. And I think, no, I know, that he's doing this for more than just the business. He's trying to prove something. To me. To our family. He's always felt like he's lived in my shadow, and this deal is his way of stepping out of it. Anna stared at him, her emotions a whirlwind. So I'm just collateral damage in your family's power struggle? No, Elon said firmly, stepping closer to her. You're not. And I won't let Damien treat you that way. Anna looked into his eyes, searching for the sincerity she desperately needed. What can we do? Elon exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. I'm working on it. But I need time to untangle this mess. In the meantime, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Anna hesitated, then nodded. I trust you, Elon. But I don't know how much longer I can hold off my family. They're counting on me to save West Tech. Elon's gaze softened, and he reached out to gently touch her hand. You're not alone in this, Anna. We'll find a way to fix this, without sacrificing your freedom. Later that day, Elon confronted Damien in his office. The younger Musk, dressed in a sharp suit and exuding confidence, greeted his brother with a smirk. Here to lecture me again? Damien said, leaning back in his chair. Elon closed the door behind him and crossed his arms. This has gone too far, Damien. You can't force Anna into a marriage just to close a deal. Damien's smirk faded, replaced by a cold, calculating expression. It's not forcing, Elon. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. She saves her family's company, and we secure a partnership that will strengthen our position in the market. Everyone wins. Except Anna, Elon shot back. She's not a pawn in your game, Damien. She's a person. Damien rolled his eyes. You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment, as always. This is business, Elon. Nothing more. Elon stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. If you think I'm going to let you manipulate her into this, you're dead wrong. Damien leaned forward, his tone equally sharp. And what are you going to do about it? Undermine the deal? Go against the board? You might be the golden boy of the family, but even you can't stop this. Elon's jaw clenched, but he didn't back down. Watch me. Meanwhile, Anna was dealing with her own battle at home. Her parents had called an emergency meeting with the West Tech board to discuss the Musk merger. As she sat in the grand conference room, listening to the executives debate the pros and cons of the deal, she felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. Anna, one of the board members, finally said, turning to her, "You're the key to this merger. If you agree to the terms, we can save the company. But if you refuse," he trailed off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. All eyes were on her, and Anna felt her chest tighten. She wanted to scream, to tell them how unfair it was to place this burden on her shoulders. But instead, she forced herself to stay calm. I need more time to consider, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. The board murmured among themselves, but her father nodded. Take the time you need, Anna. But remember, this decision affects more than just you. As the meeting ended, Anna slipped out of the room and headed to the garden, seeking solace among the neatly trimmed hedges and blooming flowers. Her phone buzzed, and she saw a text from Elon, "We need to talk. I have an idea." Her pulse quickened as she replied, "When and where?" That evening, Anna met Elon at a quiet cafe outside the city. He looked tired but determined, his sharp mind clearly working overtime. "I think I've found a way to stop this," he said as she sat down. Anna leaned forward, her heart pounding. "How?" Elon's eyes met hers, a steely resolve in his gaze. We're going to outmaneuver Damien, and save both our families in the process. Anna's mind raced as she leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the table. Outmaneuver him? What do you mean? What's your plan? Elon took a deep breath, his sharp, analytical gaze fixed on her. Damien's entire strategy hinges on pressure, on making you and your family feel like there's no other way out. But what he doesn't realize is that his plan has a weak spot. If we expose it, the whole thing falls apart. Anna frowned. And what's the weak spot? Damien's reliance on the board, Elon said, his voice calm yet filled with determination. He's not acting alone. He's using their influence to push this deal forward. But if we can show the board that the merger isn't necessary, or worse, that it could damage Tesla's reputation, they'll back off. Damien can't act without their approval. Anna blinked, trying to process Elon's words. And how do we do that? My family is desperate for help. Without the merger, Westech is finished. Elon leaned closer, his tone softening. I've been going through Tesla's finances and our recent acquisitions. I think I can propose an alternative partnership, one that doesn't involve a merger or marriage. He hesitated for a moment, then added, but to make it work, I'll need your help. Anna tilted her head, her green eyes narrowing. What kind of help? Elon hesitated, then leaned back in his chair. Your family's financial records. I need to see everything, where the losses are, which divisions are struggling, and which ones still have value. If I can figure out a way to make Westech profitable again without a merger, I can convince Tesla's board to abandon Damien's plan. Anna's stomach churned at the thought. That's sensitive information, Elon. My family will never agree to share it, especially with a competitor. I know, Elon admitted. But Anna, this is the only way to stop Damien. If we can prove that Westech doesn't need a merger to survive, the board will listen. And once they're out of the equation, Damien loses his leverage. Anna stared at him, her heart pounding. She trusted Elon, but the stakes were enormous. If she gave him access to her family's finances and the plan failed, it could ruin everything. But if she didn't, Damien's proposal would move forward, and her life would never be the same. I'll need to think about it, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon nodded, his expression understanding yet resolute. Take your time. But we don't have much of it. Damien is already moving forward with his pitch to your parents. If we're going to stop him, we need to act fast. That night, Anna lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, fear, anger, hope, and something else she couldn't quite name. She kept replaying her conversation with Elon, his confident determination, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Elon. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. You're not alone in this. She exhaled deeply, a small smile tugging at her lips despite the stress. For the first time in days, she felt a flicker of hope. The next morning, Anna made her decision. She walked into her father's study, where Richard and Elizabeth were poring over documents. I need access to the company's financial records, she said, her voice firm. Her father looked up, startled. Why? What are you planning to do? Anna took a deep breath. I'm working on an alternative solution, one that doesn't involve Elon Musk or a merger. But to make it happen, I need to see everything. Richard frowned, his expression skeptical. Anna, this is highly sensitive information. We can't just hand it over without knowing what you're planning. I know, Anna said. And I'll explain everything soon. But first, you have to trust me. Please. Elizabeth stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Richard's arm. She deserves the chance to try, Richard. We owe her that much. After a long pause, Richard sighed and nodded. All right. But if this backfires, Anna. It won't, Anna said firmly, though her heart pounded with nerves. I promise. Later that day, Anna met Elon at his office, carrying a folder filled with Westekka's financial records. As she handed it to him, she couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. "This is everything," she said. "If anyone finds out I gave this to you." "They won't," Elon assured her, his voice steady. "You're doing the right thing, Anna. I won't let you down." For the next several hours, they worked side by side, analyzing the data and brainstorming solutions. Elon's mind was a whirlwind of ideas, his genius on full display as he identified weak points, restructured strategies, and built a plan to save Westek without merging with Tesla. As the sun set outside the office windows, Anna couldn't help but admire him. His passion, his determination, the way he refused to give up, it was inspiring. Finally, Elon leaned back in his chair, a triumphant smile on his face. "I think we've got it." Anna blinked, exhausted but hopeful. "You do?" He nodded. "It's not perfect, but it's a start. We'll pitch this to your family and Tesla's board tomorrow. If they agree, Damien's plan is dead in the water." Anna's heart swelled with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Elon. I don't know how I'll ever repay you for this." Elon smiled, his eyes softening. "You don't have to. I'm doing this because I care about you, Anna. And because I believe in you." Her cheeks flushed, and for a moment, the tension between them shifted into something warmer, something undeniable. But before either of them could say anything, Elon's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "It's Damien. He wants to meet." Anna's stomach tightened. "What does he want now?" Elon's jaw clenched. "I'm not sure. But I'm going to find out." The confrontation between the Musk brothers took place later that evening in Damien's sleek, ultramodern penthouse. Elon walked in, his expression calm but guarded, while Damien lounged on a leather sofa, a glass of whiskey in hand. "You've been busy," Damien said, his tone dripping with amusement. "So have you," Elon shot back. "What do you want?" Damien smirked, swirling his drink. "I know what you're trying to do, Elon. Undermining my plan, going behind my back, it's classic you." "I'm not going to let you force Anna into this," Elon said, his voice cold. "She's not a pawn in your game, Damien." Damien's smile faded, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can stop me? I've already got the board on my side. And the Wests are desperate, they'll agree to anything I propose." "Not if I offer them a better solution," Elon said, stepping closer. "One that doesn't involve you." Damien's jaw tightened, his confidence wavering for the first time. "You always think you're smarter than me, don't you? Always trying to play the hero." "This isn't about me," Elon said firmly. "This is about doing what's right. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're not the leader you think you are." Damien stared at him, his expression unreadable. Finally, he set his glass down and stood. "We'll see who wins, Elon. But don't forget, you're not the only one who knows how to play this game." As Elon left the penthouse, his mind was already racing with the next steps. He knew Damien wouldn't back down without a fight, but he was ready for whatever came next. The next morning, Anna stood in her family's conference room, watching as the Westek board members filed in one by one. Her father and mother were seated at the head of the table, their faces tense. Elon had promised to meet her here with his alternative plan, but he was cutting it close. The weight of the room's collective anxiety pressed down on her. She could feel the board's eyes on her, waiting, expecting her to deliver some miracle. And then, just as the meeting was about to start, the door opened. Elon walked in, looking composed and confident, holding a sleek black folder under his arm. "Apologies for being late," he said, his tone polite but firm. He glanced at Anna, giving her a small nod before addressing the room. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I believe we have a way to save Westek without resorting to the merger proposal currently on the table." The board members exchanged skeptical glances, but Anna's father gestured for Elon to continue. Elon stepped forward and opened the folder, spreading several documents across the table. I've spent the past 24 hours analyzing Westek's financials and identifying key areas of opportunity. Here's what I've found. Your manufacturing division is struggling due to outdated equipment and rising operational costs. However, your R&D division is on the verge of several breakthroughs in renewable energy technology, something that Tesla has a vested interest in. The room shifted, the board members leaning forward slightly. If Tesla were to invest in a joint venture focusing exclusively on renewable energy development, Elon continued, we could provide the funding and resources needed to bring these projects to market. In exchange, Westek would retain ownership of its core manufacturing assets while benefiting from a significant revenue stream generated by the joint venture. One of the board members frowned. And what about our debt? How does this plan address that? Elon nodded, clearly prepared for the question. Tesla would provide a short-term loan to cover the immediate financial shortfall, secured against the profits of the joint venture. This would give Westek the breathing room it needs to restructure and stabilize without losing control of the company. The board murmured among themselves, their skepticism beginning to waver. Anna's father leaned forward, his expression unreadable. This sounds promising, Mr. Musk. But why would Tesla agree to take on this level of risk? Elon met his gaze. Because we believe in the potential of your company, and in the people behind it. This isn't just about profit. It's about building something sustainable, something that benefits both of our organizations in the long term. Anna felt a surge of gratitude toward Elon. He wasn't just fighting for her, he was fighting for her family's legacy. After a long silence, Richard turned to the board. We'll need time to review this proposal, but I believe it's worth serious consideration. The board members nodded in agreement, and Anna felt a flicker of hope. As the meeting ended and the board members began filing out, Anna caught Elon's arm. Thank you, she said softly, her eyes shining with emotion. I don't know how you pulled that off, but, thank you. Elon smiled, his confidence softening into something more vulnerable. We're not out of the woods yet. Damien won't let this go without a fight. Anna exhaled, the mention of Damien bringing her anxiety back to the surface. What happens now? Elon's expression hardened slightly. Now, I take this to Tesla's board. If I can get them on my side, Damien's plan is done. Anna nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. And if they don't agree? Elon hesitated, then placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. They will. I'll make sure of it. Later that evening, Elon walked into Tesla's boardroom, where Damien was already waiting, along with the other board members. Damien's smirk was firmly in place, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes as Elon took his seat. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon began, addressing the room, I've reviewed Damien's merger proposal with Westek, and I believe there's a better path forward, one that aligns with Tesla's values and long-term goals. Damien leaned back in his chair, his smirk widening. Oh, this should be good. Let's hear it, big brother. Elon ignored him, instead laying out the same plan he'd presented to Anna's family. He emphasized the potential for innovation, the environmental benefits of the renewable energy projects, and the financial advantages of a joint venture over a full merger. As he spoke, the board members exchanged thoughtful glances. Even Damien's confidence seemed to waver as Elon's vision took shape. When Elon finished, one of the board members, a sharp-eyed woman named Clara, spoke up. This is an interesting proposal, Elon. But what happens if Westek can't deliver on its end of the deal? Wouldn't a full merger give us more control and reduce the risk? Elon nodded, acknowledging the concern. It would. But it would also undermine the very principles Tesla was founded on: innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. By partnering with Westek instead of absorbing it, we're fostering a relationship built on mutual growth, not domination. That's how we lead by example. The room fell silent as the board members considered his words. Finally, Clara turned to Damien. Damien, do you have a response? Damien's jaw tightened, his smirk finally slipping. Elon's plan is ambitious, he said, his tone carefully measured. But it's also risky. A merger gives us guaranteed returns. His proposal leaves too much up to chance. But the potential rewards are far greater, Clara countered, her sharp gaze cutting through Damien's argument. Damien's frustration was evident, but he forced a tight smile. Ultimately, the decision is up to the board. But I stand by my proposal. The board members exchanged glances, and Clara finally spoke. We'll need time to review both plans. But for now, I'm leaning toward Elon's approach. It aligns better with Tesla's long-term vision. Several other board members nodded in agreement, and Damien's expression darkened. After the meeting, Elon found Damien waiting for him in the hallway. You think you've won, don't you? Damien said, his voice low and dangerous. Elon met his gaze, unflinching. This isn't about winning, Damien. It's about doing the right thing. Damien's eyes narrowed. You always think you're the hero. But this isn't over, Elon. Not by a long shot. Elon watched as Damien stalked away, his mind already bracing for whatever his brother might do next. That night, Anna received a call from Elon. The board is leaning toward the joint venture, he told her, his voice filled with cautious optimism. But Damien isn't going down without a fight. We need to be ready for anything. Anna nodded, her resolve strengthening. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of clarity. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Elon by her side, she knew they could overcome anything. Elizabeth West. Damien Musk is here. He's meeting with your father now. We need you to come to the office immediately. Anna's stomach twisted. Damien wasn't wasting any time. Throwing on a blazer, she grabbed her bag and rushed out the door. When she arrived at the West Tech headquarters, she found her father's office door closed. Elizabeth was pacing in the hallway, her face pale and tense. What's going on? Anna asked, breathless. Elizabeth shook her head. Damien came unannounced. He's pushing for the merger, hard. Your father is wavering, Anna. Damien's promising immediate cash flow and complete debt relief. It's everything your father wants to hear. Anna's fists clenched. Where's Elon? He should be here. Elizabeth gave her a worried look. I don't know. But you need to go in there, Anna. You're the only one who can stop this. Summoning every ounce of courage, Anna pushed open the office door. Inside, her father sat behind his desk, his face drawn with exhaustion. Damien, standing casually by the window, turned at the sound of the door. His smirk was as sharp as ever. Well, if it isn't the woman of the hour, Damien said smoothly. Here to join the discussion? Or are you still clinging to Elon's pipe dream? Anna ignored him, walking straight to her father. Dad, you can't listen to him. Elon's plan will work, you just have to trust him. Richard sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. Anna, Damien's proposal is straightforward. It solves all our problems immediately. Elon's plan is risky. If it fails, we lose everything. And if you go through with the merger, Anna countered, you lose control of the company. West Tech will become nothing more than a division of Tesla. Is that what you want? To hand over everything you've built to someone like him? She shot a glare at Damien, who chuckled softly. Careful, Damien said, his tone mocking. You're starting to sound emotional. This is business, Anna. Nothing personal. Anna's eyes flashed. It's personal to me. And to the thousands of people who work here, people who will lose their jobs when you start gutting the company to maximize your profits. Damien's smirk faltered, but he quickly recovered. You're making a lot of assumptions. Anna stepped closer to her father, her voice firm but pleading. Dad, please. Give Elon a chance to present his plan to the board. Don't let Damien bully you into making a decision you'll regret. Richard hesitated, his gaze flickering between Anna and Damien. Damien's proposal is already in motion. The board is reviewing it as we speak. Anna's heart sank, but before she could respond, the door burst open. Elon's plan is already in motion too. All heads turned as Elon strode into the office, his presence commanding. He carried a tablet in one hand and a stack of documents in the other. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, his voice calm but cutting. "But I thought I'd drop by and clarify a few things." Damien's smirk vanished, replaced by a scowl. "What are you doing here, Elon?" Elon ignored him, walking over to Richard's desk and setting the documents down. "Mr. West, I've just come from a meeting with Tesla's board. They've approved the joint venture proposal. It's official." Anna's breath caught. "They approved it?" Elon nodded, his eyes locking onto hers for a brief moment before turning back to her father. "Tesla is prepared to move forward immediately. The renewable energy division will generate enough revenue to cover West Techa's debts within 2 years. And unlike Damien's merger proposal, this plan keeps your company independent." Richard stared at the documents, his expression conflicted. Damien stepped forward, his voice sharp. "This is a mistake. The joint venture is a gamble, and you know it. My plan guarantees results." "Your plan guarantees control," Elon shot back, his tone ice cold. "You don't care about West Tech or its employees. This is about your ego, Damien. Nothing more." Damien's face darkened. "You're out of line, Elon." "And you're out of options," Elon replied, his calm demeanor never wavering. The tension in the room was electric. Finally, Richard spoke. "I need time to think," he said, his voice heavy. "This isn't a decision I can make lightly." Damien opened his mouth to argue, but Richard held up a hand. "Enough, Damien. I'll review both proposals and make my decision by the end of the week." Damien's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly. "Fine." He shot a glare at Elon before storming out of the office. Later that evening, Anna and Elon walked through the quiet halls of West Tech. The day's events had left Anna emotionally drained, but the presence of Elon by her side was a steadying force. "Do you think my father will choose the joint venture?" Anna asked, her voice uncertain. Elon glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "I think he will. Your father is a smart man, Anna. He knows what's at stake." Anna stopped walking, turning to face him. "Thank you, Elon. For everything. I don't know where we'd be right now if it weren't for you." Elon's lips curved into a small smile. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad I could help." For a moment, they stood there in the dimly lit hallway, the weight of the world briefly lifting. "Elon," Anna said softly, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "Why are you doing this? It's not just about business, is it?" Elon hesitated, his gaze searching hers. "No," he admitted. "It's not just about business. I care about you, Anna. More than I probably should." Her breath hitched, her heart pounding. "I care about you too," she whispered. Before either of them could say another word, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. They turned to see Damien approaching, his expression unreadable. "We're not done yet," Damien said, his voice low and menacing. Anna stepped closer to Elon, her resolve hardening. "Yes, we are." Damien's eyes flickered between them, and for the first time, Anna saw something she hadn't expected: defeat. The following days were a whirlwind of tension, strategy, and anticipation. The West Tech board was scheduled to meet at the end of the week to make a final decision, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Anna split her time between her family's offices and late-night calls with Elon, refining the joint venture pitch and preparing for Damien's inevitable counterattack. But underneath the professional urgency, there was an unspoken connection growing between them, a bond that neither of them could deny. The morning of the decision. The boardroom was silent as the West Tech executives took their seats. Anna sat beside her father, her heart pounding in her chest. Across the table sat Damien, his expression calm but calculating. Elon arrived moments later, carrying the final version of the joint venture proposal. He gave Anna a reassuring look as he took his seat. "Let's begin," Richard said, his voice steady but tired. "We have two proposals on the table today. Damien Musk's merger and Elon Musk's joint venture. Both have been thoroughly reviewed by the board, and now it's time to discuss and decide." Damien stood first, his movements deliberate and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, my merger proposal is simple and effective. It provides WestTech with immediate financial relief and secures its future within Tesla's global network. This isn't just about survival, it's about growth, stability, and innovation. WestTech will thrive under Tesla's leadership." He paused, letting his words sink in before glancing at Elon. "Unlike my brother's risky proposal, this plan guarantees results. There's no gamble here. No uncertainty." Damien sat down, and the room turned to Elon. Elon rose, his presence commanding yet approachable. "My brother is right about one thing: this is about growth, stability, and innovation. But what he fails to mention is the cost. A merger doesn't just solve WestTech's problems, it erases its independence, its identity. Your legacy becomes nothing more than a footnote in Tesla's history." He paused, letting his words hang in the air. "The joint venture I'm proposing offers a different path. One where WestTech remains WestTech, where its employees and leadership retain control of their future. Yes, it's ambitious. Yes, it requires collaboration and effort. But the potential rewards, both financial and technological, far outweigh the risks." Elon's gaze swept across the room, his voice steady. "This is your decision to make. But remember, once you give up control, you can't take it back." The room fell silent as the board members began to deliberate. For Anna, every second felt like an eternity. Damien's last play. As the deliberations dragged on, Anna excused herself to get some air. She stepped into the hallway, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. "Anna." She turned to see Damien standing behind her, his expression unreadable. "What do you want, Damien?" she asked, her voice wary. "I want you to think carefully about what you're doing," he said, stepping closer. "You're putting your faith in Elon, but what happens if his plan fails? What happens to your family, your employees, your legacy?" Anna crossed her arms, standing her ground. "Elon's plan isn't going to fail. And even if it's risky, it's better than letting you strip this company of everything it stands for." Damien's jaw tightened. "You think I'm the villain here, don't you? But I'm the one offering a guaranteed solution. I'm the one who's trying to save WestTech." "You're trying to save yourself," Anna shot back. "This isn't about WestTech, it's about your ego. You don't care about this company or the people who depend on it. You just want to win." Damien's eyes darkened, but before he could respond, Elon appeared at the end of the hallway. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his tone calm but firm as he walked toward them. Damien scoffed, stepping back. "No problem. I was just reminding Anna what's at stake." Elon's gaze didn't waver. "She knows what's at stake. And so do I. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a decision to make." Damien glared at him but said nothing, turning on his heel and walking away. The decision. Back in the boardroom, Richard stood to address the room. His expression was grave, but there was a flicker of resolve in his eyes. "After careful consideration, the board has reached a decision," he began, his voice steady. "We have chosen to move forward with the joint venture proposed by Elon Musk." Anna's heart soared, relief washing over her in waves. She glanced at Elon, who gave her a small, triumphant smile. Damien, meanwhile, sat rigid in his chair, his expression cold and unreadable. Without a word, he stood and left the room, the sound of the door closing behind him echoing in the silence. Richard turned to Elon. "Thank you, Mr. Musk. Your proposal has given us hope. I look forward to seeing what we can accomplish together." Elon nodded, his tone humble. "Thank you for trusting me. I won't let you down." Aftermath. Later that evening, Anna and Elon stood on the rooftop of West Techa's headquarters, looking out over the city. The tension of the past few days had finally lifted, leaving behind a sense of quiet triumph. "You did it," Anna said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You saved my family's company." "We did it," Elon corrected, turning to face her. "I couldn't have done this without you, Anna." She smiled, her heart full. "You know, I didn't trust you at first. I thought you were just another businessman looking out for himself." Elon chuckled softly. "And now?" "Now I see the truth," Anna said, her voice softening. "You're one of the good ones, Elon." For a moment, they stood in silence, the city lights twinkling around them. Then, before she could second-guess herself, Anna leaned in and kissed him. Elon froze for half a second before responding, his hand gently cupping her cheek. The kiss was warm, tender, and filled with the unspoken emotions that had been building between them. When they finally pulled apart, Anna smiled. "What happens now?" Elon grinned, his eyes sparkling. "Now we build something amazing. Together."